So I'm about to compare an ancient Tibetan healing martial art to a ancient family execution style passed down by an Italian family bloodline. It's gonna be a wild ride. When it comes down to it, the spin versus ripple or Hamon is a really toss-up question, and honestly, there is no right answer to the whole thing. But what I'm gonna come at it as, which is more useful for any specific purpose. And honestly, the real answer is, the spin is more useful and more practical than Hamon in most cases. But Hamon is more powerful than the spin. But before we can get into that, we need to actually cover the bases of what is Hamon and what is the spin. So let's get into that right now. The ripple, or Hamon, is life energy in the body that is used in an ancient form of martial arts called Sendo, in which the person, through self-controlled breathing and respiration, is able to form a ripple-like pulse through their body, through their bloodstream, that can emulate the energy or the wave that is identical to the sun. This allows for Hamon users to wield a kind of healing combat martial arts, where they are able to heal, like, gangrened limbs, they're able to dislocate their own body parts and move them, or in the case of Jonathan, without even thinking about it, he grips a tree branch and begins to spawn life on that tree branch. So ripple is definitely life energy. You see it multiple times through the series, specifically in the cases of Zeppeli's, where with William Zeppeli, he gives Jonathan his last Hamon, and that ages him rapidly. I know that Hamon keeps you young, but he drained most of his life energy. He gave Jonathan the last bit of his actual living self. Also, in the other case of Caesar Zeppeli, when he uses his final Hamon and he fills the bubble of blood with his life energy, and Joseph is able to intake that in, because Caesar gave up his life specifically to improve Joseph's chances. Also, when it's said that the strength of Hamon comes from the fact that zombies, vampires, and pillarmen, they give off energy that is the exact opposite of the ripple. Those are undead beings. Those are non-living beings. Those are things without life energy. Even though the pillarmen is a weird case, because pillarmen are also capable of Hamon in the case of Ultimate Cars, but they aren't able to actually fully grasp Hamon, because you also see when Strazo uses Hamon from within himself, he completely destroys himself. So every living thing, everything that is alive, is able to use Hamon, but the things that are actually still technically dead, they give off the exact opposite of Hamon. They give off negative life energy, or anti-life energy. So, Hamon is specifically good against those things. Not to mention Hamon's many, many different overdrives, which an overdrive is an overflood of Hamon. You have Jonathan creating multiple Hamon overdrives during specific segments during Phantom Blood, where he has Turquoise Blue overdrive, and he has Sunlight Yellow overdrive, and the Scarlet Red overdrive. Multiple overdrives that allow him to advance Hamon as a technique, since it is still a martial art. He can use it to make waves of water filled with Hamon that can cut things. Like, Hamon is infinitely useful. In part 2, Joseph uses Hamon quite efficiently as a projectile weapon when he's able to break a cop's finger in under a few seconds, launching a cap on a soda bottle as hard as a bullet almost. And he's also able to launch corks on a tequila bottles. He is able to use Hamon to pressurize things to the point they fly out like bullets. Though, sadly, we never got to see the absolute limit that Hamon can be pushed to like we did get to see for the spin. We never got to see what Hermit Purple's intake of what the infinite rotation would be. The closest we have is Ultimate Cars' Hamon, which could burn someone, or it could burn like anyone at the same temperature as the surface of the sun. So that's pretty fucking intense. Imagine if Joseph was able to harness that through Hermit Purple at a fucking distance. Like, if he was able to surround you and then wrap you in fucking lightning that burns you at the fucking heat of the sun, that's nearly unstoppable. It's fucking intense. Hamon, at its peak, at its most possible peak, could be one of the deadliest forms of any martial art, any life energy, honestly. Not to mention that Hamon can also keep you young for quite a while and keep you healthy as long as you maintain a Hamon lifestyle and a Hamon diet. It can keep you very young looking. Like, I mean, look at Lisa. Lisa, she's 50 and she still looks fucking good. Next we move on to the spin. The spin is a very weird, odd area in Steel Ball Run, where the spin is actually just a control over the Magnus effect. In layman's terms, the Magnus effect being when an object flying takes or is deflected by the flow of air or curved into a different flight path, and it's throwing an object or using your body to conduct an object in a way that causes that object not to go in that specific direction. The spin is also used in different ways where Gyro is able to harness an actual like flow of spinning energy in his palms that have this sort of effect on not just objects, on like water when he's underwater during the In a Silent Way arc. The tools of the spin are usually, if not always, Johnny's fingernails or Gyro's steel balls, or the wrecking balls. Along with control over the Magnus effect, it also allows one to contort one or another's body in horrifying ways. You are able to like squeeze all of the water out of yourself if need be, or carry over specific movements into someone else's arms, like when Gyro throws the steel balls and makes people shoot themselves in the head. This was a humane execution style invented by the Zeppelys because it was considered humane because they also used it during their surgeries when they were fronting as doctors as well, because it allows them to numb the person and kill the person without them feeling any pain, like some sort of medieval painkillers. But the spin was really improved when the Zeppelys discovered something called the golden ratio, or the golden rectangle, which allowed them to find the beauty in nature and find a perfect golden spin. The golden ratio allows them to narrow down the perfect rotation pattern so they can perform the spin at its peak. But that's not where the spin stops improving. There's one more spin improvement that is carried over and causes a lot of misunderstandings for some people. This is referred to as the super spin. The super spin is when one takes their entire body and positions it into the golden ratio formation and takes that one step beyond. That being, in this case, when one rides a horse and the horse is also going in the perfect rotation or the golden ratio formation. They are able to harness enough spin energy to go one step beyond the golden ratio spin, or the golden spin. This is summed up when Gyro rides his horse Valkyrie, and he is able to pierce through Valentine's perfect defense, because this is what Ball Breaker is. This is something that that the Zeppeli family invented way back in the medieval times to break through phalanxes, to break through shield units. It's a technique used and designed specifically to shatter perfect defenses. And this is also where a lot of people get confused about the perfect rotation, or something that Johnny does called the infinite rotation. So Johnny during the series is what fucks the spin for most people, because we view the spin from this fucked perspective. So Tusk is Johnny's stand, and it allows him to spin his fingernails at increasingly fast speeds and then shoot them like bullets. Now that mixed with the Zeppeli family spin is what causes the infinite rotation. It isn't something that anyone who can use the spin can do. It is something that Johnny specifically himself can do. As you can see, Tusk Act 4, when using the infinite rotation, still needs to interact with the person to cause the infinite rotation. Tusk Act 4 is where the infinite rotation comes from. It isn't part of the spin. It is the process, or the result of Johnny using the super spin along with Tusk. As you can see, Johnny using any form of a Zeppeli spin with Tusk results in a different result than what Gyro would get, because Gyro is using the spin normally, where Johnny is using the spin through his stand. And now finally, would the spin be able to work on things like the Pillarmen or vampires? I think no. I think personally, the spin is not life energy, and it cannot renegate that negative life energy that vampires and Pillarmen give off. I think, especially against characters like Kars and Wamu, if you demonstrated the spin to them, they would be able to use it immediately right back at you. Because of their mastery of different forms of martial arts, they would be able to understand it in mere seconds. Kars himself could probably, if hit with the infinite spin, realize what's going on and rip off a piece of himself and regrow himself somewhere else, outside of the spin's infinite rotation of all of his cells. So, I don't think that the spin itself is able to affect Pillarmen or zombies. It could probably defeat them, Not the Pillarmen specifically, because the Pillarmen, when exposed to sunlight, turn to stone, they don't die. But vampires and zombies, when they're exposed to sunlight, they can die. So the spin could technically cripple a vampire or a zombie and then leave them out for the sun. But that is also pulling hair so fucking thin that even Joseph can't use them to deflect bullets with Hamon. So yeah, that was my video on the spin versus Hamon. I honestly think that the spin is probably more versatile for everyday use. It's probably a more deadly human offense versus Hamon, which mainly heals people. So it's not exactly as deadly as the spin unless used at like ultimate Cars level where it's melting people like fucking literally. But I probably missed a few things as it comes along this video. I came at it, I wanted to kind of look at both of them and compare them, since they're both kind of the same thing, since Ripple and Spin are two sides of a different coin. So if you guys have anything you want to point out in the comment section, please feel free to leave a comment below, and feel free to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. If not, then fuck off, I don't give a shit. So, fucking Patreon, if you like this video, Patreon. If not, fuck off, I don't give a shit, and have a lovely day.